Rural area. Rural areas are large and isolated areas of an open country, in reference to open fields and not forests, etc., often with low population density. The terms countryside and rural areas are not synonymous. A countryside refers to rural areas that are open. A forest, wetlands, etc., with low population density is not a countryside. So, a rural area is something like this. Sign in a rural area in Sweden, and here is another example of a rural area. But not all rural areas are the same. There is countryside, which is more like this, where it's open. Open means there's not many trees, whereas here you see trees. This is a small forest. So this would be called a forest. This would be the countryside. Both are types of rural areas. So rural areas are large and isolated areas. So isolated means it's by itself, away from buildings or people. And here's another example of a rural area in upstate New York. This rural area has a little bit of forest over here and some countryside right here. So, rural areas are large and isolated areas of an open country in reference to open fields and not forests, etc., often with low population density. Population density means how many people are in the same area. So here, how many people do I see? I see no people. So the population density is very low. Again, I see no people. The population density is very low. Whereas a city, or suburban, for example, I'll open this for you. A suburb, or suburban, is like this, where you have many houses. This is not the countryside. This is the suburbs. And this has high population density because there are many different people living in the same area. So high population density, low population density. So the terms countryside and rural areas are not synonyms. Or you could say synonymous, but this word is synonyms. Synonyms means two words that are similar, like delicious and tasty, or big and large. Those are synonyms. You could also say synonymous. So the terms countryside and rural areas are not synonyms. A countryside refers to rural areas that are open. A forest, wetlands, etc., with low population density is not a countryside. So a forest, such as this, has many trees, and it has low population density because there are very few people living there. But it doesn't mean it's countryside, it's just a rural area. It's just a rural area because it is not like this, where you have open fields that are called the countryside. And here we have low population density as well.